So again, today we're going to talk about strategies to help your ELLs. It's listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So as you know, in ELL language acquisition, there are identified levels of language acquisition, and there's different naming conventions across the country. Depending on what state you're from, as you can see, we have a graphic here that shows you what are the national and state recognized organizations. Obviously, WIDA is the one that is most commonly used around the country, but then there's the standards from TESOL, the Arizona Department of Education, California, New York State, and the Texas Education Agency. Within each of these standards, what you have are levels of proficiency. So as you can see this chart right here, I know that the type might be a little bit small. So Susan, if you can't call in through your computer speakers. Or phone in. Excuse me 1 minute while I give her the access code information. Hang on, we have a few more people coming in. All right, I'm typing in the access code to make sure that everyone, if you don't have computer speakers, you need to be able to dial in. So I'm giving you the access code information. Okay, so what we have here are the levels of proficiency. This is a graphic here that is showing you, as I said previously, we have alignments into different standards across the country: WIDA, TESOL, Arizona, California, New York, and Texas. So if you see on the left-hand and right-hand sides of this graphic, you will see that we've actually listed the different standards that are appropriate across the country. You can also see under this chart, they have the different proficiency levels and descriptors, including the language characteristics, performance characteristics, and the instructional focus. Across the top, you see levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these are the industry standards based on what state that you are in. And then there are the expectations of what the students should be able to do for each ELL, whether they are beginning, intermediate, or advanced. So for instance, let's just take a look at level 2. You can notice again, we have the different state standards on the left side. They're all showing what they consider level 2 is emerging. And then under beginning, under the proficiency level descriptor, I'm looking in this part right here. I don't know if you can see it on my cursor. It says the ability to use and understand phrases in short sentences and oral discourse, the ability to use and understand a simple written English, and the ability to use high frequency vocabulary. Again, these are the standards with the expectation from each of your states. And then down at the bottom, it actually shows you what the lessons should focus on based on whether they are entering, pre-emergent, emerging, developing, and expanding. And again, we have them all set up right here so you can just see them at a glance. So then how do you provide support through language development? As we showed, there are 5 identified levels language of proficiency and that are varied across the country. But what we have here are now the characteristics and descriptors of what you need to do for any type of instructional program that you're using. So we have a proficiency level descriptor that shows any of the characteristics that they must have. There's language characteristics, which are like receptive and expressive. There's performance characteristics, which are the student performance expectations. And then there is an instructional focus. This is the guiding support of the instruction that you need to do to help them develop their language. So within that, there are 4 language domains. As you know, in teaching ELLs, the curriculum really needs to be integrated to be able to address each of these four language domains. It's listening, it's speaking, and it's reading and writing. So when you're looking at instructional materials, you really need to look at whether they're supporting all four of these levels of development and that they need to work simultaneously in order to effectively develop their skills. So how do you do that? You need to provide strategies within those four language domains. They need to support both language and literacy development. And what you need to be able to do is to implement strategies that combine both of those. You need to select the best strategies based on your students. And so what you really need to do is look at what are the resources that you have or what are the new resources that you need to purchase, and then to consider the language and literacy demands of each student that you have. Again, you know that in a lot of classes you have students that are in varying levels from emerging all the way up to advanced. And you need to pick the particular strategy that works with each of these students. So what Raleigh Education offers is actually a ELL literacy program. It integrates language and literacy development for reading levels 3 to 8. So that would be at the upper end of emerging. So we suggest that there is a succinct instructional sequence. And through this sequence, we believe that step one, you want to develop literacy through listening. So we have a program that's devised of 4 complex lessons with literacy and informational selections. The teacher would read passages to the students and they would listen and take notes. So again, in having the students listen and then to actually write and then respond orally helps to integrate each of these strategies. Step 2 is literacy through skills. It's comprised of 6 instructional units, and I will show you more about that. And it's scaffolded. So the students want to develop skills slowly and methodically. So they scaffold in difficulty from sentences to paragraphs to passages. Step 3 is literacy through reading, which is more complex reading comprehension, instructional text, and it includes reading and speaking and writing skills. So what Quest is, it's a flexible instructional program. It's designed to integrate and have students master listening, speaking, reading, and writing. There's 3 individual components within it, which I'll show you. And then we have an extensive program guide that provides an in-depth overview of this process and then directions for how to use each of the instructional components, such as paraphrasing or non-linguistic representations and cooperative learning groups. So the first component, which is also part of the first instructional strategy, is literacy through listening. There's actually 2 parts to this. There is a teacher guide, and then there is a student companion book. The teacher will read the passage while the students listen and take notes. So again, as I stated before, this process allows the student to not only practice listening and writing, but then you can discuss the answers in class so they develop speaking skills. So they are also using strategies such as note-taking, listening, writing, and speaking. And so this is how it works. On this side, you have a picture of the teacher guide, and underneath it is an actual page from the teacher guide called Living the Desert Life. So the teacher would read this passage out loud. Now keep in mind, this is upper emerging level that we have. And then on the right-hand side, this is actually a page from the student book. So we have a place right here. So as the teacher reads the passage, the student can listen and take notes. Column 1 allows them to start to write notes there, and then column 2 gives them an opportunity to think about any big ideas that are coming out of this passage that they're listening to. After the student finishes that, there's actually questions that the teacher would ask them. They would write it down, and then they would actually discuss them in class. The next component is literacy through skills. So this is where the students begin to build reading comprehension skills, and it scaffolds in difficulty from sentences to paragraphs to actually full-length passages. We've divided this book into 8 key reading comprehension skills, and you can see them listed here: main idea and details, vocabulary and context, sequence, compare and contrast, conclusions and inferences, and cause and effect. The reason we combine some of these reading comprehension skills like main idea and details is so that students get a better and a broader understanding of reading comprehension. And then there's a teacher guide that goes with this. So this is how it works. So on the left-hand side of this page, this is a page, 2 pages from this book. This is the student book. It's called Modeled Instruction with Sentences. And right here, they would read this sentence. The lights were dim, so the workers used a flashlight to help them see. So notice that we've highlighted a vocabulary term. So what does the word dim mean? And then we explain it. There's a couple of few contextual clues that they can use. And we've explained it here for them to help understand. And then we're explaining to them to think about the different types of clues that they find so they can unlock a key word to build more understanding in that sentence. So that's modeled instruction with sentences. And as I stated before, this scaffolds in difficulty, and it's also modeled and guided instruction with independent practice. So on the right-hand page is guided practice with sentences. So what you can see now is they would read the sentence and answer the question. So again, we've highlighted a vocabulary term, and then we've given them an opportunity to give them a hint of what the word custard means. At the end of this lesson with sentences, they would go through this. They would then have an independent practice with sentences. So I see that someone can't hear what's going on. Again, we will send this information to you to follow up with. So now as a student has progressed from scaffolded sentences, then sentences, and then passages, this is actually what a scaffolded passage would look like. And again, we're using the tried and true modeled and guided instruction with independent practice. So here we have model instruction. It's within the same skills book. So they would read this passage, and then underneath we have multiple choice questions. And then we're explaining to them which one would be the best answer. Through guided practice, they would then start to do it on their own, a gradual release of responsibility. They would read the passage, and then we would give them a hint, and then the following page would show them that there's a passage that they would work on their own. The final third component is literacy through reading. So we've talked about listening, we've talked about reading skills, and now we want to put it all together. In literacy through listening, the students are going to build reading comprehension through thinking, writing, and listening. They're going to read informational and literary passages. So we have different units set up, and they're all based on the same theme. In addition, there's a separate teacher guide that goes with this. So each selection in literacy through reading allows the students to thoroughly examine different text and questions to build reading comprehension. So that would be think when you read, think about the question, and think about the answer. And then the student is guided along the way to respond to the questions, so they would actually develop not only writing skills, but speaking skills as well, because they would want to discuss this in class. So this is what a typical page looks like in literacy through listening. So what we do is we encourage the student to think about some things ahead of the passage that they're going to be reading. So this particular passage is functioning on think when you read. And what they're going to do is they're going to build reading comprehension. So if you notice on this page, we have a couple of little things here. One is about good readers. It's teaching the students what good readers do and what they think about while they're reading. And then down under the beginning of this passage and across the page here, we have 2 little blue boxes here that, again, are just open-ended questions to help prompt them to understand and to think about what they're going to be reading, and it will help them understand this passage even more. Again, this book is for upper-level students. We do have a couple of lower-level that the passages would be a little bit simpler. So then the next part of this within literacy through reading is think about the question. Again, what we're trying to do is to build higher order thinking skills, to think about not only what they're reading, but to think about what they have read and then to answer a series of open-ended questions. So in thinking about the questions, We want them to go back and to take a look at different parts of the passage and then to answer questions like, which is the best summary of the selection? Write a short summary of the selection and what makes you think about that answer. What's nice about this is that the teacher can actually guide the students through this book. That's one of the reasons why we have the questions in black, and then we have guiding information in blue, or they can work in small groups, or they can work independently. But what the point is to guide the students along to build the reading comprehension and writing skills. Again, any of these answers can be discussed in class so they can develop their listening and speaking skills. So then what puts this all together is a complete resource guide, which has an extensive overview of the ELL instructional process. It also has instructional strategies that provide opportunities for ELLs to listen, speak, read, and write, and we show the 5 levels of language proficiencies. Someone just asked the question, it's for reading levels 3 to 8. The naming conventions, we have that information in the book, which I discussed at the beginning of our presentation, and we've listed them right here. So here on the table of contents page, it shows you there's an overview of the different components. There's also an overview of how to teach ELLs. There's also the instructional implications of the different proficiency levels, which is the proficiency chart that we saw at the beginning of the presentation, which I will show you again. It also shows the instructional strategies that help support the 4 language domains, and then different social and academic language acquisitions. And then we show the 3 components for the instructional strategies that I just reviewed. So for those of you that missed at the beginning of the presentation, this is the levels of proficiency chart that I showed you. This is also found inside this resource guide. And so what you have here again are the different levels of proficiency based on the state that you are in, and the 5 levels of proficiency, and the expectations of what students should be able to do among the different descriptors and characteristics of their proficiency levels. So here we have some examples of what the strategies are to support ELL instruction. So if you look here over on the right-hand side, it says listening and speaking, and these are some of the instructional strategies that you could use throughout any of the process that you're using with your ELLs. For example, repeat and add, repeat a pattern such as I see a dog or I like animals, and have each student complete the sentence with a different ending. So again, that repetition here helps them understand language and how the sentence structures work within the English language. A couple of other instructional strategies would be for reading, this case, say, look at pictures, provide pictures that are related to the text, help the students find meaning with picture, text match, point to the picture and say, I look at the picture, say it is a picture of a dog. I know what's in this picture. It will help me when I try to read. So again, it's helping the student build their understanding and the higher order thinking skills they need to be able to do when they do reading comprehension and language acquisition. In this particular case on the right, under writing, it would say this is another instructional strategy. This is only one sample. There's many other pages behind this. It says draw a picture to express your ideas, and then it gives you information on what you can do to help with work with those students. So here is a typical example of how we've now then tied our instructional strategies to each of the components that I showed you. So as you can see here, we have listed up here the 3 instructional components within our Quest program. The prior pages were just standard instructional strategies that you could use at any time with your ELLs. But these specifically are now going to address the components within the Quest program. So in step 1, this is literacy through listening. So we're going to teach them strategies on how to develop their listening and speaking and writing activities. So we're showing you where we stand within those different levels of proficiency. And then on the right-hand side, we're actually showing you different instructional strategies In this particular case, I'm going to pick out cooperative learning groups. It says student works, excuse me a minute, somebody's coming in. Students work in groups of 4 to 6. Each group member has an important contribution that is essential to the group. Students work collaboratively to read and discuss the text. So what you could do with literacy through listening is you could put each of your students in a small group, and then as you took the listening book and read the passage, you could have the students sit together and actually write and take notes. And again, you can see that there are other strategies there as well. So why do we think that Quest works? We believe that it is a complete instructional program that's integrated, and it helps develop reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills for your ELLs. We're actually using an integrated combination of skills to improve their understanding and their higher order thinking skills. We've given you one-stop place to develop and use in-depth instructional strategies to help them build what they need. So the program package is for reading levels 3 to 8, which is upper emerging. We're actually looking at possibly doing a little bit lower level for this. It includes enough materials for 10 students. There's the literacy through listening, literacy through skills, literacy through reading, and then the complete program guide which I showed you. It's $546, enough materials for 10 students. If you would like to know more about it, or you have any questions, or you'd like a sales representative to contact you, you can go to rallyeducation.com/links. It's in alphabetical order. You scroll down and you would see Quest listed. Go in there. You will see the same information that I've just presented to you today, or feel free to call us at any time, 888-99-RALLY. We really want to be here for you. We know that you have a lot of really great materials that you're using out there, but what we wanted to do was to give you one complete integrated program, and we hope, like I said, that you contact us. We're here to help you. So thank you for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. If you have any questions, call us at 888-99-RALLY. If you'd like to email us, ava@rallyeducation.com. If you want to know who your sales representative is, anything that we can do to help you help your students. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Somebody says 546. Yes, ma'am. That's for each grade level. Thanks again. Contact us. Good luck with what you're doing out there. We know that this is a tough situation for you to be in, and we want you to get the best materials that you can. And yes, we can send this presentation to you as well. Thank you.